What's up, man? How's everybody doing? You listen to the Sports Court. I'm Gregory Beatty. Am I live and direct? Am I live and direct? Hold for a second. Let me get ready to. Man, you got it sounding special up in here right now, man. I love it, Skrillerilla. Let me go on. Let me let me go. That's what's up. Let me go and share it right quick. Y'all hold tight for just a second while I actually yeah, it does, bro. For real. For real, for real, for real. Let me see here. There we go. There we go. Let me turn this down some right here. Okay. I don't need to be seeing the start time for work in the morning. Let me see here. Hold tight. Hope everybody doing well. Man, you know they say it's supposed to be back in the 50s tonight and raining. Crazy weather, bro. Crazy weather. But it ain't nothing. It ain't nothing. Let me see. Hold on. Oh, man. I'm never on Facebook, but as soon as I look on here, I see my cousin picture changing her profile picture. My beautiful cuz. Let me see here. You listen to the Sports Court. Once again, let me, damn. Hold on. Hold tight. Hold tight. 1 second. Hold up. Wait a minute. You know how y'all know how it is when we get rolling. Let me see. Let me see. I got him on standby for a second, Skrilla, while I get this squared away. Let me see. Bam. Damn, hold on. Damn. Yeah, damn nothing about that Florida. What's up, man? Hold on. Hold tight. Let me see here. Let's rock and roll. Bam. I guess I'm live and direct. What's going on, everybody out there in H-Town and beyond? Glad to be here. Glad to be back. It was some people asking me earlier, man, what you gonna talk about tonight? There's really not nothing going on. Hey, that's how it goes sometimes. That's how it goes sometimes. But I know what? Skrillerilla, did you watch the dunk contest?
Yep.
You see that white guy?
White boy.
Mac McClung?
Yeah, he going viral online.
Hey, man, over 500-some million views right now. Kudos to him. 24-year-old G League guard. Now he's with the 76ers. We'll see if the Philadelphia 76ers actually, if they keep him up on the roster, played at Georgetown for a couple of years, then transferred, I think, to Texas Tech. No, actually entered the draft. Well, before I get to him, of course, there's a lot of other things going on in the sports world as well. Kudos to Brittany Griner for finally making it official. Now she's back with a 1-year contract, if I'm not mistaken, with the Phoenix Mercury. So kudos to her. What else is going on? You got Jock Vaughn of the Brooklyn Nets, signed an extension. I think he's good to what, 2026, 27? Kudos to him. And don't sleep on Brooklyn. Brooklyn's going to be a lot better than a lot of people think, even though they're without the services of the great Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, of course. We all know Kyrie is in Dallas playing with Luka now. We'll see how that unfolds, how that turns out. Maybe briefly touch on that here in a second. And of course, KD is with the Phoenix Suns. That should almost be illegal. That should almost be illegal. And you do not have to give up Devin Booker or DeAndre Ayton or Chris Paul. Now, you did lose some depth. You lose Cam Thomas. You lose Mikal Bridges. That's some tremendous depth. So we'll see. We'll see. But what else is going on? Lonzo Ball. I saw where Lonzo Ball, he's ruled out for the remainder of the season. Lonzo, man, you know what? And again, you listen to the Sports Court. I'm Gregory Beatty. Lonzo Ball. We all know Lonzo, right out of UCLA, very hyped. Of course, we all know his dad, LeVar Ball, his brother LaMelo, balling out there in Charlotte. I hate that for Lonzo that he has an arthritic knee. And you know what? And I hope this offseason he's had multiple surgeries on that knee. Chicago Bulls point guard Lonzo Ball, who's been out the entire season because of the knee injury, a recurrent knee injury or a knee injury that just will not heal. They've done everything. They've had him looked at by multiple doctors all over the world, and they cannot figure out what's going on with Lonzo Ball's knee. It's arthritic. And, you know, I'm sad to say this, and I hope I'm wrong. Hopefully another offseason, he can actually find the cure or find the right dosage or whatever he has to do, the right method to cure that knee injury. I mean, because that's something right there. Seems like that's something that could be career-threatening for Lonzo Ball. That knee injury, you know how back in the day you have a knee injury and your career is over because it's just arthritic. They say he can't run, can't cut, and he's missed the entire season. And he still can't run, can't cut, can't jump. I mean, wow. That is not good news right there for Lonzo Ball. Again, I hope this offseason, because the Chicago Bulls definitely need his services. You see, they have not been the same, even though they have Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. They have not been the same without Lonzo Ball running the show as that point guard, and also what he was able to bring on the defensive side of the ball. But you're talking about a true, legitimate point guard who gets everybody in the spots that they need to be in, gets the ball to where it needs to go, gets DeMar DeRozan the ball so he can incorporate his mid-range game, gets Zach LaVine the ball wherever he needs it so he can do what he has to do. So Chicago Bulls without Lonzo Ball this season, it has really shown how important he is to that ball club. But was not in here last week. And of course, the Houston Cougars, the University of Houston Cougars, they're ranked number 1 again in the college basketball world. The only team this season to have stayed in the top 5 their entire season. Now they're back at number 1 for the 3rd time. Purdue, I think, has dropped to they're not number 1 anymore. They're not even number 3 anymore. And I'll get more into college basketball as the year progresses. I actually watched a little bit of it this past weekend, and Kansas has a nice little squad going on as well, as usual. But the University of Houston Cougars, back at number 1, Kelvin Sampson has those guys playing at a high level once again. And like I said a couple of weeks ago when I was in here, it does not matter who he has on the roster. Right now you have Big Roberts, you have Sasser. I mean, whoever he has, whoever departs because of their time is up, eligibility is up, he just brings in the next crop, and they just fall in line with the system, and they continue to play hard for him. He holds all those guys accountable. They shoot the ball. They shoot the 3, play tenacious defense every possession. Every possession is like it's the last game, it's the final game, it's the championship game of the Final Four. Love what Kelvin Sampson is doing with the University of Houston Cougars. And at some point, I'll probably get away from referencing them to the early 1980s, Phi Slamma Jamma. But think about it. They can do something that Phi Slamma Jamma was never able to do. Now, of course, Phi Slamma Jamma went to 3 straight Final Fours. Or was it 4? I think when they had Rob Williams, before Rob Williams was drafted, I think number 2 overall to the Denver Nuggets. They went to the Final Four. I think they lost to North Carolina that year. Then, of course, the next year, 83, is when, of course, North Carolina State, that devastating loss in that national championship game. I remember that game like it was yesterday. It was with my dad and all of them and all his buddies, my cousins and uncles, and they were all drinking. I was 13 at the time. They were all drinking and stuff, but what a buzz waster right there that night after Lorenzo Charles put that tip back in. Of course, we were not drinking. But I will say this, though. Me and my brother, we were, Skrilla, we were to, I don't know if y'all remember the part on the movie, Menace. Get a little nigga a drink. Let the nigga have a drink. Even though had the best dad in the world. I know he's watching right now. But every now and then, we used to beg him for a sip here and there. You know, begging for a sip. He used to snatch it away from him like, that's enough. We used to be like, get a little nigga a drink. But but it was never nothing too extreme, anything like that. Just something to wet your taste buds. Something to wet your taste buds. Something like if you're at a park or something, we'll be at a park or something and be like, Dad, let me have a sip, Dad, let me have a sip. No. Take a little swig or whatever. Never remember getting drunk, anything like that. Maybe ran back onto the football field while the kids were playing. Maybe ran back with a little more energy after that, like right after a couple of gulps or whatever. Like, oh! Just take the football from the quarterback that's playing all-time quarterback. They'd be like, man, you're not playing all-time quarterback. Hey, I am right now. I am right now. But that game in 1983, that was brutal. That was brutal. But U of H has the chance to actually win a national championship. That's the point I was getting to. Something that the Cougars and Phi Slamma Jamma and Akeem, and again, they went to the Final Four that year. Lost, of course, to North Carolina State, the great Jim Valvano, the great late Jim Valvano, and North Carolina State. Lost that game. And then, of course, the next year to Georgetown, Akeem was without Drexler. Drexler had departed early, joined forces with the Portland Trail Blazers. You know the great career he had in Portland, but Akeem was basically there by himself for the most part that season. Still had some talent, still had Alvin Franklin, had Ricky Winslow on that team, who was supposed to be harkening back. And I hate to keep doing the present U of H like this, but until they go to the Final Four, until they actually, and they have a chance to win it, something the Cougars were not able to do back then. But Ricky Winslow, who I used to watch all the time at J.Y. Yates, he was heralded as the, and we all know his son, Justice Winslow, in the NBA. I think he's still in the NBA. Was drafted by the Miami Heat. But Ricky Winslow, Carvin Holcomb, they were Phi Slamma Jamma Jr. at Jack Yates the year before that. And I watched his tenure at Jack Yates, and man, so he was highly recruited, was supposed to replace Drexler. Of course, he didn't really have a jump shot. Drexler didn't either at the time, but Ricky Winslow, he was a dog. But they could not get past Georgetown and Patrick Ewing and those guys. So I think that was 3 years straight they went to the Final Four. Now, the present Houston Cougars, they have a chance to actually get there and win it all. And in my opinion, right now, they're the odds-on favorite just because of how tenacious they play and the way they can knock down the three ball and just the way they play as a team. I really want to see them get that done. Of course, and if you all thought that I was not going to briefly talk about the Super Bowl, you're wrong. You're wrong. Missed that opportunity last week, but hey, it's never too late. Never. Especially when Patrick Mahomes, you know what happened? Okay, I'll get to that in a second. But real quick, Mac McClung, 24-year-old G League guard. Now, that and the three-point contest was probably the only two things that I enjoyed watching over the All-Star weekend. Hey, speaking of the dunk contest, I know Kobe is rolling over in his grave right now. Speaking of the All-Star game. Now, speaking of the dunk contest, Mac McClung, again, 24 years old, G League guard with only 2 NBA appearances to his name. Right now, I think he's with Philadelphia. Tapped the glass over 2 people. Perfect score, 50. 360 windmill, 49.8. Double pump reverse, 50. 540. I guess that's a 360 plus another. I mean, it's like spinning in the air a bunch of times. 540 degrees. 50. So out of those, and he did all that on his first attempt. And I know a lot of people are complaining about why none of these guys that's in the NBA, like people say John Morant should have got in there. I've always said LeBron should have had at least tried one NBA dunk contest in his career. I think that's a blemish on his resume. You look at guys like Kobe, Dr. J, MJ, Vince Carter. I know these are different times right now, but you know what it is? These guys, they know that the dunk contest, for one, they don't want to get injured. That has a lot to do with it. For two, I think a lot of those guys just realize that the way they're going to be judged off creativity. And it's like, what can they really come up with that's different and creative where they're not really taking a chance on injuring themselves and being out the remainder of the basketball season? We all know the NBA season resumes at the end of this week. Touch on that here in a second as well. But these guys realize that creativity is a big part of it, and it's just hard to get creative to where you're going to impress the judges in the fashion that you really want to impress them. Where back in the day, those guys just went at it. But a lot of these guys are feeling like everything has already been done. And it's only so long, you can only stay in the air so long and do this and do that. Blake Griffin jumped over a car. Aaron Gordon, great dunk contest performer. The aforementioned Zach LaVine, flying from the free throw line. He was special as well. Before he injured that knee, Zach LaVine, he still can get up, but he has an arthritic knee as well that puffs up on him and gets sore, from what I understand, from time to time as well. So I'm sure you'll probably never see Zach LaVine. I think he participated 2 years in a row. Former champion, gliding from the free throw line. Like Clyde the Glide. Same thing Clyde did. Julius Irving, Dr. J. So it's just not the same. And when I say Kobe's probably rolling over in his grave, I'm talking about the All-Star game. But Mac McClung, before I get to that All-Star game, it's really not too much to say about it. Really, they really don't even deserve that much attention for that. Now, I like the fact that the All-Star game, that the proceeds go to charity. But that still has not made them want to compete. They're still not competing out there. That's where Kobe and a lot of those guys are rolling over in their grave. Well, Kobe for sure is rolling over in his grave. But a lot of those old school guys that played back in the day, Larry Bird, Magic, early 80s, Dr. J. I can go on and on. I'm from the old school. I want to see some competitive fervor out there in the All-Star game. Lay it out there on the line. I know people are making a lot more money these days and they're worried about injuries, but just don't play the game if that's the case. Find something else to do. But that nonsense they put out there the other day was straight trash, straight garbage. Maybe a 3-year-old loves it. I heard Jaylen Brown say, well, the only thing that matters is if the fan like it. No, that's just it, Jaylen Brown. We don't. Again, maybe you can impress a 3-year-old with that. But just O-land and letting people, just a layup line. Jason Tatum had 55, and it was a layup line. So that scoring feat means nothing to me. But got to give love to Mac McClung. Got to give love to Mac McClung. Who said white boys couldn't jump? It was very, very, very creative, very innovative. Started his dunking prowess in high school, back in Virginia, Gate High School. Then in 2018, he participated in the Balls is Life dunk contest, where he outdueled guys such as Sharif O'Neal, the great Shaquille O'Neal's son, and also, who else was in that dunk contest? It was another prominent NBA figure who I can't name right now, but in 2018, he put it down and he let it be known that, hey, I'm coming. Now, again, when he was at Georgetown and then he declared for the NBA draft, a lot of people said the NBA scouts told him, hey, we want to see you become more of a playmaker. He was a shoot first guard, 6'2", off guard. Of course, crazy athletic. But he's bounced around in the G League, of course, and has honed his skills up to the point to where now he has a shot with the Philadelphia 76ers. Had a try with the Lakers for a while. Played in their summer league. But pretty much has been in the G League since then, honing his skills, becoming more of a passer. They want to see him become more of a passer. Of course, he's only 6'2", instead of strictly being a gunner. And so allegedly he's worked on all that to go along with the incredible dunks that he's doing. But I tell you what, now he's made a name for himself, that's for sure. So if Philadelphia wants to sell tickets, even more tickets than they already have sold, or than they probably will continue to sell, of course we know they're third in the East right now with the great Joel Embiid and James Harden doing what they have to do, keeping them afloat. Doc Rivers. Still don't think Philly is anything that's going to win the championship. I really don't. I just don't. And you know what, too? And not to get off on a tangent about the Philadelphia 76ers right now and their prospects, but I just want to give kudos to Mac McClung and the tremendous job he did. And hopefully his career takes off now. Now everybody knows who he is. So he's definitely going to be on people's radar. Hopefully his hoop game is just as good as his dunk game, or eventually it can become that. But obviously he's worked on his game like I just stated. But Philadelphia, and it's going to sound crazy for me to say this, as much as I love Joel Embiid, and hopefully Mac McClung gets in that rotation some kind of way and gives them something, whether it's just pure athleticism, whether it's scoring. Again, at Georgetown, I think one year he averaged like 16 points a game. Speaking of Georgetown, how long is Pat Ewing going to be there? What's going on with Georgetown? But I don't trust, it's going to sound crazy for me to say this, as far as Philadelphia 76ers is concerned, I do not trust Doc Rivers. I know he has a ring. I do not trust Doc Rivers in big game situations. I know he won that championship with the Celtics with 3 Hall of Famers. But I do not trust Doc Rivers in game scheming. I don't trust his adjustments. As a matter of fact, he has way too many lack of adjustments. Now, maybe this season is something different. But I know it sounds crazy for me to say because a lot of people think it's crazy to talk about Doc Rivers. Love Doc Rivers as a person, as a player. Damn good coach. Tad bit overrated in my opinion. When it matters. And I say that and he has a championship ring. But lack of in-game adjustments, I think when it comes to the playoffs, with as grimy and as talented as these teams are, even in the East with the Celtics and the Bucks, I just think now Philly won't be an easy out, that's for sure. Joel Embiid is that dominant in the running for MVP once again. He's probably going to go to Jokic once again. We'll see. The last quarter of the season will be starting, I think, Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this guy, Mac McClung, played 2 years with the Warriors and averaged 16 per game before declaring for the NBA draft, and then pulled his name out, like I was saying earlier, because a lot of the scouts want to see him become more of a passer and more of a playmaker instead of just a gunner at 6'2". The Delaware Bluecoats, that's the Philadelphia 76ers affiliate G League team, I guess, and hey, there it is. So now he has a shot with Philadelphia. We'll see if that name recognition, if that does him well as far as getting on the floor. But, of course, we know Doc Rivers is not going to put him on the floor unless he feels he can contribute to the team's success and to the team being a better team because of him being on the floor. But that dunk contest, winning that dunk contest, definitely does not hurt his chances. That is for sure. Now, a few other things a few other things before I move on to some NFL. And of course, today is the day where the as far as the NFL is concerned, today is the day where the franchise tag window opens up, and that goes to March the 7th. We'll see what happens with Lamar Jackson, see if he gets that deal. It doesn't seem too promising for Lamar Jackson getting that long-term deal in Baltimore right now. But before I touch on that Super Bowl real quick, Russell Westbrook, and then I'm going to talk more basketball after that too. But Russell Westbrook signing with the Clippers. Now I've talked about all these teams in the Western Conference leading up into the trade deadline, and the Clippers are a team that I always said if they get healthy and if they start playing because of the coaching exploits of Ty Lue, and of course because of Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, they have a shot. And just the depth that they have on that team. But the trade deadline passed, and everybody wanted Russell Westbrook out. Even LeBron James wanted him out. LeBron James, who actually injured his finger in that game, now he's and not too much more about that All-Star game other than it's a joke. It is a joke, and it is sad to watch. I turned it after about 10 minutes. I said, I'm not watching this. I'm not watching that nonsense, that garbage. Players from the same team, Jaylen Brown playing against Jason Tatum. They're laughing it up. You have Luka bringing the ball up court, holding an interview. I mean, come on, man. What does this come to? Seriously? Get back to East versus West. Let's play ball. At least give me some kind of competitive nature. Something. Instead of that nonsense you're putting out there, again, you may impress a 3-year-old. And hell, I'm not even sure they're impressed, to be honest with you. But we all know LeBron James wanted Russell Westbrook out. First, he wanted Westbrook there. Talk about what the Lakers got here in a second. But Russell Westbrook, man, I think he came up. Got traded to the Jazz. Of course, the Jazz bought him out. $47 million he was owed this season. $13.2 million remaining. All the Clippers are going to pay is $784,914. The league minimum. That's all they're going to pay for the remainder of the season. And then, of course, Russell probably becomes he will become a free agent again. But it's a perfect situation for him. Was probably on pace to be in the run. Was definitely on pace to be in the running for Sixth Man of the Year, the way he was playing in L.A. Of course, we know Russell can't shoot. We all know Russell Westbrook's efficiency is terrible as far as shooting the basketball. But now that he's with the Clippers, and he did accept his role with the Lakers, Darvin Ham did get him to buy into his role. Now, it didn't end so well because of him being excluded at the end of games, and he felt that he was giving them enough to where and that he's done enough in his career to where he should garner the respect to where he's finishing those ball games. So it didn't end well in Los Angeles, obviously. But now Russell Westbrook has a chance to go to the Clippers where you know he's going to be their Energizer Bunny. He's going to be their Energizer Bunny, and he's going to push the ball up the floor. We all know Kawhi, and I've heard some other people say this as well, and it rings so true. We all know Kawhi, and we all know Paul George. They're more laid back, more of a calm demeanor. Russ is going to bring his hard hat every night, and he's going to push the pace. He's going to bring that energy, that passion, that outwardly passion. Not saying those guys don't have the passion, but we all know how much they miss load management. That's a story for another day. They've been playing as of late. If they can gel as a team, the Clippers are going to be very, very, very dangerous with Russell Westbrook in the fold. And, of course, he may not start. He may come off the bench. But when he is in the game with those players, he gives them a different dimension. Just that added energy, that added boost that they may need. Stay on your toes. Let's go. You know he's going to take the ball to the rack. Things are going to be spread out for him. They don't have a dominant low post player on that team. So things are going to be spread out. So he'll be able to penetrate, drive, dish. Thing with Russ is that the Clippers have to concern themselves with getting into the playoffs. And hopefully Russell Westbrook have learned by now that he has to make better decisions with the ball in his hands at the end of games. That means not taking ill-advised shots, not just jacking up threes, knowing your shooting percentage is terrible. One thing I do like about him, he's not scared, but he has to be smarter. He has to be smarter when you're playing with those guys because Russell does not have to be the main scorer. He does not have to be the scoring threat over there that he was with OKC when he was playing alongside Kevin Durant. Now, Paul George just spoke highly of him. Paul George loved his time with him in OKC. Paul George actually signed off on him coming there, was one of the guys that signed off on him. He thinks Russell Westbrook has gotten a raw deal. But again, if Russell Westbrook can come in there and play his role, be a distributor of the basketball, giving them some energy on the defensive side of the ball, even though he's never been noted for being a tremendous defensive player. If he can do that, and give them the points they need off the bench or in times where Kawhi or Paul George or one of those guys are not in the game and he can be that third scorer because you know he can get to the rack and you know he's not scared to go to the rack. So you know he can get to the foul line. Now, whether or not he makes his free throws is a different story. Not the greatest free throw shooter, but he can knock him down. But it gives them that extra dimension, that extra weapon, that extra voice in the locker room, leader, first ballot Hall of Famer. Someone else that the opposing team, say what you will about Russell Westbrook, someone else that the opposing team has to account for. And he's going to have a lot of one-on-one matchups. We can take his man off the dribble, and he can get to the rack. But he has to think more about getting to the rack than settling for ill-advised three-point shots, even though from time to time he can knock those down as well. But it gives the Clippers an added dimension. I mean, hey, I like that for the Clippers. I really do. He had offers from the Heat, the Wizards, and the Bulls. He may end up with one of those teams after the season, but right now he wants to stick it to the Lakers. He wants to stick it to the Lakers for getting him out of town. Well, not getting him out of town. He's still in L.A., his hometown. That's why he wants to play for the Clippers, but he wants to stick it to the Lakers. And he knows the Lakers cannot beat the Clippers right now. He knows that. I'll touch on a few more of those NBA trades. Here later. But again, you listen to the Sports Court. I'm Gregory Beck. Hold on. Hey, Screw. Oh, no. Nah. Hey, but I tell you though, I'm back. Look at I didn't trip. Hey, I'll never forget. I was telling somebody earlier, I'd never forget when my pastor, now this is not funny. I was at church one time and the pastor was going to the podium and he tripped. Practically almost fell on his face. He tripped. I was trying to make sure I almost tripped right there. And when I was leaving out. But I almost fell on his face. Then try to get to the podium and play it off. Now we turn our Bibles to Luke chapter 10. Like, Pastor, you almost fell on your face, man. But be an athlete. But hey, real quick, the Hall of Fame class, want to congratulate these guys, the Hall of Fame class. Rondé Barber, Darrell Reed. Of course, Rondé Barber played for Tampa Bay in those great years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tremendous defensive back. I think this was his 5th time. Class of 2023. Still hate the fact that Andre Johnson didn't make it. They're trying to keep my boy Andre Johnson out of the Hall of Fame. Playing for the Texans did not help. It does not help. Playing for the Texans back in those days, even though he was a great wide receiver. But they need to let Andre Johnson in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully he'll get in. Rondé Barber is in there. Darrelle Revis. We all know about Revis Island. Revis Island. How great was Darrelle Revis? Just take the opposing team's best receiver, put him on the island, say, I got him. Same thing Deion used to do. He's in on his first ballot. Played on those great Rex Ryan teams, great defensive teams with Rex under the tutelage of Rex Ryan with the New York Jets, who's actually interviewed for the Denver Broncos defensive coordinator position, and I hope he gets that job. I hope he gets that job. Great defensive coordinator, Rex Ryan. As a matter of fact, and I've said this before on the show, speaking of Rex Ryan, I'd love to meet him one day and ask him, was it him or his twin brother, Rob, that used to come to Ohio State and was, I think, like a grad assistant at the time I was there? But I remember it was one of those Ryan guys. It was either Rex or Rob. But they used to always be at the practices. And they used to be like, that's Buddy Ryan's son. That's Buddy Ryan's son. I don't know if it was both of them. I know it was one of them. Started out at Ohio State as like a grad assistant or something to that effect. At least had a tenure there. But used to always be at the practices. They used to always see him in the facility. And then it was good to see their careers take off from there. But I remember those guys back in 89, 90 in Columbus. Of course, DeMarcus Ware. So kudos to Darrelle Revis, who played on those teams as a starting cornerback, superb cornerback. DeMarcus Ware, of course, Dallas Cowboys, DeMarcus Ware, the leader in sacks all time for the Dallas Cowboys. So DeMarcus Ware is in there. Zach Thomas, formerly of the Miami Dolphins, 5'10" linebacker, caused havoc. Kudos to Zach Thomas. Ken Riley, a lot of you all don't know Ken Riley, big-time safety for the Cincinnati Bengals, played like 13 seasons. He's in there. Of course, if there's anybody I'm missing, of course, Don Coryell. You've heard me talk about him, Eric Coryell, those great San Diego Chargers teams, already in the College Football Hall of Fame. I think with San Diego State. Yeah. But Don Coryell, yeah, kudos to him as well. Getting in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We all know those Chargers teams in the early 80s led the team in passing, led the league in passing like 3-4 years in a row. His whole tenure there, they led the league in passing. I think that was 6 or 7 years. Every year, they led the league in passing. That was the St. Louis Rams before the Rams. That was the Kansas City Chiefs before the Kansas City Chiefs. Dan Fouts, Chuck Muncie, John Jefferson, Charlie Joyner. Come on, man. Don Coryell, congratulations to him as well. But speaking of, before I talk more basketball, speaking of the NFL, and of course I'm going to talk about the trades, a few more of the trades. Again, Dame Dollar wins a three-point contest. No surprise there. You saw him hit a three-point shot from half court, netting it from half court. But that's not surprising right there. But again, the All-Star game was just boo-boo. Wow, it was terrible. I mean, come on. That was flat out terrible. But what about those Chiefs? I picked them in here. Don't act like I didn't pick the Chiefs. As much as I've talked about Jalen Hurts and how much I like Jalen Hurts and how much I believed in him before the season when a lot of people didn't believe in him or wasn't sure if he was the guy moving forward because they were noting some things that he needed to work on, which, like I've always stated, it's always some things people can work on. But it was never any doubt in my mind that he was the franchise quarterback moving forward with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, after that Super Bowl, is there any doubt in anybody's mind? He can't make the throws. Damn, all he did was make those same throws his last year in Oklahoma under Riley. So I knew the work ethic and the arm talent and the talent. I knew with his work ethic, I knew. So this past season is not surprising. But I'm not going to sit here and harp on me predicting that he was going to be this great quarterback and all this and that. It is what it is. I've missed on some and hit on some. Missed on James Wiseman so far. But what did I tell y'all? He maybe needs a trade. Let's see what he does in Detroit now. But the Kansas City Chiefs, man, hey, Patrick Mahomes, what can I say about Pat Mahomes? And to outdo and stand on Jalen Hurts for a second, he was no slouch. He easily could have been Super Bowl MVP. He would have been if they would have won. 348 yards passing, accounted for 4 touchdowns. That fumble that he lost when Kansas City tied it up and made it 14-14, that was huge. Once they tied that game up and made it 14-14, even though they went into halftime down 10, I'll be honest with you. I said, Patrick Mahomes is about to happen. In the second half, that's what happened. Pat Mahomes happened. As great as Jalen Hurts was, again, I'm glad he had a great game. Wouldn't have been mad if they won. But, of course, he plays for the Philadelphia Eagles, which is in the same division with the Dallas Cowboys. So I wasn't crazy about seeing Philadelphia Eagles win. But because of Jalen Hurts, wouldn't have been mad if they would have won. I mean, at the end of the day, I could care less, to tell you the truth. But I'll say this. Pat Mahomes, what can I say about Pat Mahomes? He erased a 10-point halftime deficit. Again, Patrick Mahomes happened. Scored on all 4 drives in the second half. 3 touchdowns and a field goal. But again, when they went to half, I said, that 10-point lead is not enough against Pat Mahomes. I don't care if you had a second-ranked defense in the league or what. They didn't get to him the whole game. He's playing on a bad ankle. And when you start talking about legacy with Patrick Mahomes and you compare him to all these other quarterbacks, of course he's not on Tom Brady's level yet. But at 27 years old, he has 2 Super Bowl rings, just like Tom Brady had at 27 years old. Now, it's going to be hard to catch Tom Brady with 7. But he has 2 regular season MVPs, 2 Super Bowl rings, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. And the thing about Pat Mahomes, he just willed his team to victory. And here's what I say about Pat Mahomes and why when you really want to start talking about the GOAT situation right now, and of course, again, Tom Brady is the GOAT. We all know that. Tom Brady is the GOAT right now. By the time it's all said and done, barring injury, Patrick Mahomes is. If Patrick Mahomes retired right now, he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. 6 NFL seasons, 5 straight AFC championships. He lost that Super Bowl to Tom Brady. Played on a bad ankle. That's why I thought for his legacy, it was imperative that Patrick Mahomes got that win. It wouldn't look good on his resume with 2 Super Bowl losses, going to the Super Bowl 3 times, but with 2 losses. That's why I made the pick, even though I was hesitant to make that pick, I'll be honest, because Philly was no slouch this entire season, offensively and defensively. And they just had a myriad of weapons on both sides of the ball. I talked about how they can bring it on the defense side of the ball. It was obvious. They had 70 sacks during the regular season, which is almost an NFL record. I think second of all time, or was it an NFL record? Well, they had 70 sacks during the season. That's a whole lot of sacks as a team. And they had guys getting it done from everywhere. From everywhere. But the reason I settled on the Chiefs was because of Patrick Mahomes. And you saw he was able to get over the hump against the Cincinnati Bengals in the game before that where he just willed his team to victory. Just willed his team to victory. And the thing I like about what Patrick Mahomes has done, both Super Bowl victories were done in a different style. Remember, going into the season, I think I probably picked Kansas City because I always believed in if I'm not mistaken, I think my Super Bowl pick, I think I picked Kansas City against the Cowboys. I did. I picked the Cowboys. That was just a homer pick right there. I picked that. That pick was more of my heart than my. But I thought Dallas was going to be better than they were, better than they ended up being. But it didn't surprise me they got ousted when they did. It's the Cowboys. But it's hard for me to pick against Kansas City. And the thing I like about the Chiefs and what Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were able to do, again, kudos to Andy Reid, man. Kudos to Andy Reid. Once you give him 2 weeks to game plan, I mean, wow. But the thing I like about Pat Mahomes, he finished the season again with the #1 offense in yards and points. And this was without Tyreek Hill. Remember the first Super Bowl, everything was predicated on Patrick Mahomes being a gunslinger. Him just dropping back, launching it deep. Of course, throwing the ball to Travis Kelce as well, but taking deep throws, taking deep shots. Tyreek Hill. You remember that long pass that Tyreek Hill caught that essentially got them that Super Bowl victory on that post corner, I think it was? Great route by Tyreek Hill. Great season in Miami. How you think Tyreek Hill feels after that Super Bowl? Like, damn. Anybody that doesn't think Tyreek Hill was sitting over there like, damn, is fooling themselves. Yeah, you can say, oh, he's probably happy for his team, his former teammates. Baloney. Baloney. Now let's get to the real world. Tyreek Hill was over there like, damn, they did it without me. And Patrick Mahomes, who was noted as a gunslinger, you know, he likes to run around and make and improvise and make off-target throws or make throws that he's not supposed to make and all this and that. And this season was supposed to be without Tyreek Hill. Okay, we're going to keep him in the pocket. Now let's see what he can do with being a pure drop-back quarterback. What did he do? Win MVP, win another Super Bowl, methodically driving the ball down the field every game. Okay, you're going to take our deep passes away? You're going to take our deep routes away? Yeah, we don't have Tyreek Hill. You're going to try to, okay. I'll just take what the defense gives me. And, of course, with the Andy Reid scheme, I mean, it's always somebody open. It's always somebody open. The dude is special. Just willed his team to a victory. 10 points down, no problem. I'll just score touchdowns on 3 out of the 4 possessions I have in the second half. And then on the last possession when we kick a field goal, even though I have a bad ankle, I'm so great. I'm one of the best to ever do it. I'm just going to scramble and get a first down. I'm going to step up in the pocket when you think you have me in your grasp in the pocket. I'm just going to scramble, even with a bad ankle, and put my team, going to frustrate the defense so much to where the defensive player hits me late out of bounds because I've just mounted this great comeback on them. But I'm just going to scramble for this and get my field goal kicker in range to solidify a victory. I mean, come on. What else can the guy do? Again, you ask him, like I said, you ask him to be a quarterback who stays in the pocket and surveys the field and doesn't just take deep chunk throws. What does he do? Again, wins another MVP, but does it in a completely different fashion than he did the first season that he won it. That's special. And that says a lot about Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, who should be a head coach right now that he's in Washington. And I like the fact that Andy Reid, after the game, I like the fact that he immediately gave Eric Bieniemy his due. But I think it's good for Eric Bieniemy. He's not a head coach this year. It is what it is. He's not a head coach this season. But I think now his path, his best chance, his path to being a head coach, because I think a lot of people looked at him, well, you're not calling the plays. But Patrick Mahomes even said after the game, Eric Bieniemy, he holds everybody accountable. All those players on that team, on the offensive side of the ball, on that team for Kansas City, period, they've always respected Eric Bieniemy. And he designs a lot of those plays. doesn't call him in the game for the most part. That's Andy Reid. But he designed a lot of those plays. So very creative, very innovative, hands-on approach, holds his players accountable. He'll get there. He'll get there. He has a few weapons to work with. Terry McLaurin in Washington. He has some players to work with in Washington. Now we're really going to see what he's made of as an offensive coordinator. But he should have been. I mean, that's his second Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator, third time in the Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator, 5 straight AFC championships. But the guy couldn't get a head coaching job. Just go to Washington, call the plays, show how great you are as a play caller, as a play designer, as an offensive schemer, without being under the Andy Reid regime. So I think him moving on to Washington is going to bode well for him moving forward, and he'll eventually get that head coaching job as early as, not this season coming up, obviously, but as early as probably next season, depending on the success that Washington has. But I think he's going to hit the ground running, and he's going to get the best out of the players that he has over there. But again, man, I mean, hey, and I just can't say it enough about Patrick Mahomes. Again, and then you look at the quarterbacks. Again, you look at Brady. You look at Montana. Montana 4 for 4 in Super Bowls. Never threw an interception. But look at the weapons. And not to take anything away from Joe Montana. Superb. One of the best to ever do it. A lot of people think he's the best to ever do it. Cool Joe. And not only did Joe Montana win 4 straight, he actually beat 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks himself in the process. Dan Marino in '84. I'll never forget, I was going for the Miami Dolphins that year because I played wide receiver, and, of course, Mark Duper and Mark Clayton, and the way the Miami Dolphins were throwing that ball all over the field that year, I became a fan that season. Like, wow, that offense looks fun. And just think about this. This is a story for another day. But they were supposed to get Anthony Carter that next year out of the USFL. That would have been illegal. But San Francisco, that 84 season, they had won the Super Bowl earlier, obviously, the Dwight Clark catch over the Cowboys. I've talked about that ad nauseum before. But the second Super Bowl with Joe Montana, he beat Dan Marino, Hall of Fame quarterback. Just blasted Miami. I'll never forget watching that game. It was like, wow. San Francisco is really that good on both sides of the ball. That game was not even close. Of course, Dan Marino didn't have a running game. Didn't really have a great defense. It was Dan Marino, Mark Clayton, and Mark Duper, and that was it. And, of course, the great Don Shula. But they were just outmatched. But Joe Montana, he had Jerry Rice. After that, for the final 2 Super Bowls, of course, we know Jerry Rice won one with Steve Young as well. Of course, John Taylor, Roger Craig, Brent Jones at tight end. But, you know, all great Super Bowl winning teams have great players on their roster. But I said that to say this. Patrick Mahomes didn't even have a number 1 receiver. He didn't have a number 1 receiver this year, and they played against the second best defense in the league. That was supposed to be so great. Didn't get to him not one time. But that's why I picked Kansas City when I said, hey, man, because I just could not pick against Patrick Mahomes for the exact reason the way it played out. Can't bet against that guy, man. 10-point deficit at halftime, no problem. But again, he won his second Super Bowl and didn't even have a number 1 wide receiver. Of course, we all know Travis Kelce is the best tight end in football and maybe the best tight end that ever played a game. And he's still going to be there for the foreseeable future. What is he, 33 years old? With the way Andy Reid schemes, the way Kelce works, the way Mahomes works, I can see them right back in there next year. And I'm sure they're going to add to the receiving core. They didn't have a big-time running back. They didn't have a Roger Craig. They had running back by committee. They didn't have Tom Rathman. Patrick Mahomes went out there and did that. He really did. I got to give that dude kudos. And he's right up. Again, if he retire right now, he'll be a Hall of Famer. Roof. Speaking of dog, man, hey, when they clean up all that mess on 2034, you have a dog laying out in the middle of the damn street, a big old dog too. For about 3 weeks, it was cold for a while, so obviously it didn't disintegrate. But was telling somebody about that not long ago. They even knew the dog Baxter or something. His name was Baxter. Oh yeah, you talking about Baxter. I'm like, man, they don't get Baxter off the damn street. Then they had the nerve to go put it down. After he's laying out there for about 2 weeks just uncovered, dead as a doorknob, instead of scooping him up, they lay a damn blanket over him. Pick Baxter up off the damn street and let him go somewhere and rest in peace. Come on, 2234, McCarr Road. All this dead shit all up and down the road. Come on. But you look at Montana. You look at Elway, who of course didn't have a team. He ended up winning 2 himself. Manning, of course, won a couple. I'm just talking about the great quarterbacks. Elway won 2, went like 5 times, but he didn't have the run game and the support as well for a number of those until he got TD and Shannon Sharp, and they won a couple. 2 Hall of Famers right there. Oh, that's Baxter. Get Baxter off that damn road. Damn. I'm passing down there. I guess I'm going to stop going that way, especially if I'm thinking about eating. I'm passing down there. Last few days, I'm avoiding Baxter. Like, damn, I can't run over Baxter. Get Baxter out the damn road. Going to cover him up with a damn blanket. What's really going on, McCarr Road? Of course, Terry Bradshaw, 4 Super Bowls. But we all know the teams he had. We all know the Hall of Famers that he had. No knock on Bradshaw. Could chunk it with the best of them. Former number 1 pick. So you got Brady, you got Montana, you got Manning, you got Elway, you got Bradshaw, and of course Roger the Dodger won a couple Super Bowls. He didn't even start playing. Roger Staubach didn't even start playing for the Cowboys until he was 29 years old because of his duty to the service, to the Navy. He didn't even start playing until he was 29 years old. But by Andy Reid's scheme, and then kudos to Patrick Mahomes for being willing to adapt and make modifications to his game. Hey, man, I love the guy as a quarterback and as a person. Seems like a real cool guy, and he's only going to get better from here. The guy is special. Special. All he cared about was the final score. He didn't throw for 300 yards, but he made it when it counted most. He made the plays he had to make. What was he, 21 and 27, 184 yards, 3 touchdowns, making the necessary completions, not doing too much, letting the game come to him, but still taking the game at the same time. Again, Patrick Mahomes happened. In the second half, Patrick Mahomes happened. But not to take anything away from Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles for that matter for getting there. Great season by them. But it was just hard for me to pick against the Chiefs, man, with Patrick Mahomes at the helm. Now he's off and running now. Now he sees his legacy is like, it's no stopping for him right now. You know they're going to find a way to get some more weapons for him. Mecole Hardman will be back next season. That's an added deep threat. Some of those receivers that they got, you got Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, all those new receivers that they got running wide open on some of those play calls by Andy Reid. I mean, it was crazy the way Andy Reid was scheming up some of those plays. It was just crazy, man. The guy is a magician in calling those plays. But all those receivers are now going to be a year into the system, and they're going to be that much better. And again, you know they're going to add something to that. Sky Moore, number 24, scored a touchdown on a wide open play. He's going to be that much better. Big time punt return in that game. You think his confidence is not out the roof now? What about the receiver they got from the Giants? You think his confidence is not out the roof now after a touchdown in the Super Bowl victory? I better wake up about those Chiefs. I'm telling you, Patrick Mahomes is nothing to play with. But again, much props. And I'm talking about Patrick Mahomes. He threw only one pass that traveled more than 20 yards in the air. Shows you how he's adapted his game. One pass that traveled for more than 20 yards. And that pass fell incomplete. So again, he was methodically picking them apart. Back, bing, 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 bing. Down 10, no problem. Kudos to that defense. You think that defense, Spagnuolo and those young rookies that they had playing in the secondary, you think they're not going to be better? Chris Jones. That secondary is going to be that much better now. So you have a defense that's going to be making that ascension, that's going to be on par with Patrick Mahomes in the offense. I don't see the Chiefs falling off at all. What did I tell y'all early in the season when those young defensive backs were playing? I said they're going to be that much better for all this experience that they're getting during the regular season right now, whether or not they were getting burnt here and there or not. But I saw the talent. I say, those are some damn good DBs right there. Trent McDuffie, first-round pick. Watson, what was it, a seventh-round pick? Damn good player. They're only going to be that much better. Again, this is without a number one receiver. This is what makes it, and this is why I named all those other quarterbacks. Of course, we all know Brady. Did it with the, especially his first year was, it was more defensive oriented with the Patriots. He didn't have a bunch of great weapons on his squads as well. Of course, Gronk. But he had some talent here and there. But nobody like with the same skill set as people like Montana had. Even Manning had Edgerrin James and Marvin Harrison and whose son will be the first pick in the draft next year from the Ohio State. And the list goes on and on. Had two Hall of Fame receivers, two great receivers. Elway, talked about that. But Bradshaw, talked about Bradshaw. Staubach, of course, lost to Bradshaw. And at least, I know one of those Super Bowls, the one I was sick on. The first Super Bowl that I actually remember watching, even though I've been a Cowboys fan as long as I can remember, the first Super Bowl that I actually remember watching, I don't really remember the Denver Broncos Super Bowl where the Cowboys beat the Broncos in '77, Tony D's rookie year. But I vividly remember the year where they lost to the Steelers, his second year, I think it was, that next season. Fabulous Super Bowl. But yeah, Staubach, so I said all that to say, put him in the company with those guys. Multiple Super Bowl victories. He's on the 13th quarterback with multiple Super Bowl victories. Of course, I could talk about Jim Plunkett, and I can go on and on and on. But those are the greats right there that he's chasing. Brady, Montana, Manning, Elway, Bradshaw, and Staubach. The only one in my opinion, the only two in my opinion that he really hasn't surpassed with the two Super Bowl victories and again, the fashion that he did it in. Out of all those guys, as much as I love Roger the Dodger, man, I hate when he retired. Roger was a bad man. The only ones I don't think he surpassed right now, even after just two Super Bowl victories, is Brady and Montana. But again, the fashion that he did it in was just, wow. And again, and I said that about him not making a pass over 20 yards downfield. Jalen Hurts, on that note, the guy who everybody questioned if he could throw the ball. Man, you see those dimes Jalen Hurts was dropping? Seriously? He's been doing it all season. Right into the breadbasket. He's played a splendid football game. Very proud of Jalen Hurts. And he has nothing to be ashamed about. Now he's going to get that bag now. He's going to get that bag. He lofted 7 of his attempts over 20 yards in the air and connected on some of them too. But I said all that to say this about Mahomes again. He changed his game up and still won another Super Bowl. Well, can he do it from the pocket? Can he do it without being a gunslinger? Can he do it without all this improvisation? Can he do it without Tyreek Hill? Can he do it when he don't have a deep threat on the team? Not only did he not have Tyreek Hill in that game, his lone other deep threat, Mecole Hardman, was not even playing. Man, I marvel at the guy. 10 points, no problem. We'll be back. They won that game 38-35. Come on, man. Who knows what's going to go on with Lamar Jackson? Have no idea. Now, the Ravens can use the franchise tag, but if they use the non-exclusive franchise tag, it allows Jackson to negotiate with other teams. To be honest with you right now, I don't know what's going on behind the scene there. They obviously have not signed him. They do not want to pay him all this guaranteed money that he's asking for, fully guaranteed. We'll know between now and March 7th if anything changes, if they come to an agreement. But from his tweet today, from what I understand, he put out a cryptic tweet today, or post, that didn't sound too favorable about his chances of staying in Baltimore. Who knows if he actually wants to stay in Baltimore? Baltimore should have paid this man long ago. The fact of the matter is they haven't. They have never gotten him. Think about this. They have never gotten now, he can negotiate with another team if they use the non-exclusive franchise tag. But if they go with the exclusive tag, that could come back to haunt him. If he refuses to play. If he refuses to play. But all this about they can get 2 first-round draft picks and all this and that. It looks like the Ravens actually may be leaning more toward that. Think about it. Think of the lack of respect they've shown Lamar Jackson since he's been there. All he's done is won an MVP. Been their entire offense, for the most part, running the ball and throwing the ball. They've never gotten him a big-time wide receiver to throw the ball to. Never. They did draft Hollywood Henderson. Hollywood, man, that's my former high school coach right there. I love Hollywood. They did draft Hollywood. Well, we called him Hollywood Henderson. Of course, we all know the original Hollywood Henderson played for the Dallas Cowboys back in the day with Roger the Dodger and those Super Bowl teams that I was just talking about. But have never gotten him. Hollywood Brown. Have never gotten him a big time. And even when they had Hollywood Brown, they didn't utilize him the right way. If he wasn't nicked up because of an injury, they maybe threw the ball to him 3 or 4 times a game, maybe took a deep shot. Everything was predicated on throwing the ball to the tight end. So you can't make your decision based on, well, we don't know if he's a great pocket passer, when he's shown you, if given the opportunity, that he can make those throws. Can he get better? Of course. But like I've said for the last couple of years, when they had Greg Roman at the helm, now they have Monken at the helm. Now Todd Monken is talking about his praising Lamar Jackson. Who knows if that's just something he's doing just to try to save face, knowing that the Baltimore Ravens do not want him back or are not going to get him that extension that he's requesting, fully guaranteed. But the offensive scheme, they never opened the offense up for him. How can he evolve as a quarterback when, again, you do not give him the requisite weapons to utilize that skill set or to evolve as a passer, and then you just decide not to open up the playbook? Everything is a tight end. Everything is running the football. Now you're basically saying that, no, we don't want to give you all this guaranteed money. And again, Deshaun Watson, it'll probably never be a contract to that extent. He got over on Cleveland. So the Ravens are saying, we don't want to give you that type of contract. Now, maybe they can come somewhere close that will appease Lamar Jackson, who's operating without an agent right now. By his choice. But maybe they'll do something. Maybe they'll do something to appease him and get close to that fully guaranteed money. If he wants to stay in Baltimore, maybe Lamar Jackson wants to go play for Atlanta. It'll definitely be a dip in the talent pool. His chances of winning a championship won't be as good. But it obviously looks like the Ravens and Lamar Jackson are not on the same page as we get closer to the deadline. So I don't know what's going to transpire right there. Tennessee Titans will be a viable option. They have a first-round receiver from last year he can throw the ball to, who should be healthy. He got the big bruiser in the backfield, running the ball. You got Burks at wide receiver. Maybe Tennessee. Who knows? The Raiders. I don't know. We'll see what transpires with Lamar Jackson, but it doesn't seem like to me right now that he's going to be in Baltimore next season. And I just think he got a raw deal in Baltimore with just the way everything transpired. Baltimore, and of course he's 1-3 in the playoffs, but again, that's to their own fault by being so predictable in the playoffs and not really giving them anything to really work with that's going to keep the opposing defense at bay or on his toes because they know they're not going to run anything for any wide receiver. Just refuse to play, like I said. I don't know what's going to happen with. They're talking about Derek Carr. Derek Carr, and he's going to let it play out some more. Is he going to go to the Jets? Or are the Jets going to try to lasso Aaron Rodgers? I don't know if he's out of his darkness retreat right now. But again, like I said a couple of weeks ago, he can stay in that damn darkness retreat for 3 more weeks. 60 mil is 60 mil. As soon as he leaves that darkness retreat, you know what's going to ring in his head? Bing! 60 mil. So go ahead and stay another couple of weeks. He's playing next season. He's playing next season. If he retires, I'll burn this sports court banner up back here. Right in front of y'all. I'll just burn it up. Which I got a great deal on the way by my boy Bam. Bam. Actually, he gave me a deal. This banner was supposed to only be like about right here. That's what I paid for. Bam hooked me up. Bam hooked me up. When I went over there to pick it up, I said, bruh, appreciate it. Y'all want banners, holla at Bam. Holla at me. Appreciate you, man. But he's playing. He's playing next season. 60 mil is 60 mil, like I said. Go to all the retreats you want. Go scuba diving. Go wherever. Go to the Grand Canyon and get away. Do whatever you want to do. He's playing. He's playing. Now, where? I don't think it'll be Green Bay. But Green Bay, if they want him there, but I'm not going to get into that again. You all know, I know, Green Bay wants him gone. Time to go. You didn't win the MVP this year. We're not going to get scrutinized like we once did when you were coming off 2 back-to-back MVP seasons. LaFleur's like, get him out of here. Let me show what I can do with Jordan Love. So whether or not he ends up with the Raiders or the Jets remains to be seen. This is the offseason, so it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of speculation. The Cowboys in the situation right now. Dalton Schultz, Tony Pollard. Zeke has to take a pay cut. Ezekiel Elliott has to take a pay cut. Tony Pollard has to be signed. However you want to do it. Tony Pollard has to be on the team next season. I prefer they give him a contract before Dalton Schultz. As much as much as I like Dalton Schultz, he doesn't block. Damn good receiver. But I'd rather have Tony Pollard. But whatever the case may be, Zeke's number against the cap is ridiculous. And he needs to take a pay cut if he wants to stay with the Dallas Cowboys. Because even though, and Jerry Jones loves Ezekiel Elliott. Again, not that he's the running back that he was when he signed that big-time contract, but from his leadership qualities, what he brings in the locker room, what he brings in short yardage, what he brings as a change of pace to Tony Pollard. Now, Tony Pollard is coming off a devastating ankle injury, but he'll heal up over the offseason. Broken bones usually heal up pretty good. He'll be just fine. You can say that's a dilemma with the Cowboys, his injury, but he'll be 100% going into next season. Actually, a broken bone is almost better than a torn ligament because those bones heal completely the majority of the time. So we'll see what the Cowboys do as well. But really not too much more football I really want to talk about at this time. Of course, as the weeks progress, even though football season is over, of course the draft will be coming up. We'll talk about the draft. We'll see what Chicago decides to do. Chicago is not trading Justin Fields. I hear this speculation, of course. It's going to have to be all this fodder leading up to the draft, of course. I mean, and I'll say this. Again, the Texans messed up when they did not put themselves in a position to grab that first pick overall, because now you have a situation where Chicago can do whatever they want. I think Chicago, they may trade that pick, trade out of that number one spot. But if the Texans don't trade up and get it, if the Texans are high on Bryce Young, which I think they are, which they should be, Bryce Young should be the guy. I know he's 6 foot, 195, and he's a little more bulkier than people give him credit for. He's more bulkier than he was the year he won the Heisman, actually. He could put on a few more pounds. I understand that. It's not my money. So it's easy for me to sit here and say that the Texans should draft him when a lot of people are saying, well, they got to be concerned about him getting injured. Well, damn, you have to be concerned about all of them getting injured. And what I've noticed about Bryce Young is, with a lot of quarterbacks, that's his size as well, or that's even not his size. But what I've noticed about Bryce Young is he's smart. He doesn't take the big shot. Again, the guy is a wizard. The guy's a magician. Now, will Chicago trade out of there and let Indianapolis swoop up and get him? Because Indianapolis needs a quarterback. See, now this is where the Texans having the second pick could come back to haunt them if they really love a Bryce Young or a quarterback or C.J. Stroud or Will Levis. But I think if anybody trades up to get that number one pick from Chicago, I think Bryce Young is the guy. I think they'll take Bryce Young. Now, if somebody trades up, say Carolina trades up, who knows what they'll give up? They have Frank Reich now, former quarterback. Say if they trade up, and they go for Bryce Young, where does that lead the Texans? C.J. Stroud? Is that who you really want? Now, if Chicago stays put, and no, they're not going to draft a quarterback if they stay put. They're going to draft Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. I would go with Jalen Carter. I think he's a dog at the defensive tackle position from the University of Georgia. I like Will Anderson, but not as much as I do Jalen Carter. I think Will Anderson he has a propensity to kind of disappear from time to time. He may turn out to be a great pro defensive linebacker. But I think I would take my chances with Jalen Carter and solidify. Of course, it's always great to have a legitimate pass rusher. So the Bears would draft one of those two if they stay at number one. Either Jalen Carter from Georgia or Will Anderson from Alabama. They're not drafting Bryce Young. Justin Fields showed way too much promise last season. If anything, they need to add around Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the franchise quarterback for the Chicago Bears, folks. So you can have all your mock drafts and scenarios, and it sounds cute, it looks cute. And I respect all those guys, and they're entitled to their opinion. Justin Fields will be the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Now, whether or not the Chicago Bears trade out of that spot, that's very possible. But again, where does that leave DeMeco Ryans and the Texans? Because I think Bryce Young is the guy. I think Bryce Young is the guy, and to be honest with you, it's not even close. In my humble opinion, it's not even close. Man, what you gonna talk about tonight, man? Ain't nothing going on. Sometimes you gotta make how the saying go? Sometimes you gotta make Skrilla, how that saying go? You gotta make chicken feed you gotta turn chicken shit into chicken feed. I guess that's how it go. Come on, man. I have people that I've invited to come in here and join me. I think they're scared. So much has to be going on. Or it has to be in the heart of football season. It has to be in the heart of basketball season. Basketball season on the break right now. Baseball season hasn't started yet. Come on now. I ain't scared. Speaking of baseball season, it's almost that time. The Stros to repeat. It's funny how I heard last week, I was listening to something on the radio, and they were talking about how the Dodgers, oh man, I wish I could pull this guy's name up. They had the book talking about the Dodgers and all their cheating exploits in 2018. After they did all that whining about that bunch of crybabies just because they couldn't beat the Astros. They say the Dodgers were cheated more than anybody probably in Major League Baseball history in 2018. All those teams do. What did I tell y'all a few years back when I was talking about the Astros? Me and Eddie Cox was in here, and I was talking about the Astros. Well, we weren't in here. We were somewhere else. I was talking about the Astros. I said the only thing that's going to change, I said they're going to have to win another championship, which they have. Went to another World Series since then as well. Kudos to Dusty Baker for getting that ring. They're going to have to win another World Series. And I said, whatever news comes out about the Dodgers or the Yankees, it's going to get swept under the rug. The Yankees, they say they were allegedly, and I believe it. Hell, I'm going to take allegedly off of it. Do what you have to do. The Yankees were cheating as well. I heard the balls were juiced last year as Aaron Judge was en route to the 62 home runs or whatever. I heard MLB was doing everything they could to make sure he had all the juice baseballs that he could possibly have over there that the Yankees did. But, of course, you hadn't heard nothing about it. None of these networks are going to talk about the Yankees and their cheating exploits and the Dodgers because that's Los Angeles and New York. That's why I hope the Astros keep beating the dust off their ass every year. Every time they play, beat them like a damn stepchild. The Dodgers did all that damn whining, and here they are. They're stealing signs more than any damn body in the history of the game. If you can't beat them, join them. Oh, they're cheaters. Oh. Okay, well, they just beat your ass again last year. Now what? But I told y'all then. I told you all then. I say you would not hear nothing. Bud Selig is awful. You would not hear nothing about the Yankees or the Dodgers or even Boston for that matter, for the most part. But the Yankees and Dodgers, anything they've done is going to get swept under the rug, put it all on the Astros. That's why I'm glad the Astros spanked that ass last year and won another World Series. Now what? And they're the early favorite to repeat this season as well, even without Verlander. Re-sign Javier. Brantley is coming back. I can't wait. I cannot wait for the Astros to get rolling and repeat as World Series champs. Hey, I was talking about KD going back to some NBA for a second. Of course, we all know the second half of the season is coming up here in the next few days. And the Lakers, we'll see. They got my boy D'Angelo Russell, former Ohio State Buckeye. Was able to get him from the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm not going to go over all the scenarios as far as the trades are concerning. Concerning all the trades. I'm not going to go over every last scenario and who got what. All I know was there's a lot of second-round picks being moved. All right, we'll give you 4 second-round picks. All right, we'll give you 5 second-round picks. What you want? You want second-round picks? We'll give you 4 of them. We'll give you 4. But KD got his wish. Now he's headed to the Suns. Suns also get TJ Warren. But you get Kevin Durant. Out of the West right now, because I'm almost ready to give up on Golden State. I don't know what's going on with Golden State. They may not even make the playoffs. They just melded in. Steph is out, but at the same time, I don't want to count them out because if Steph comes back and Draymond and those guys start playing some defense and they get honed in, and Wiggins playing like he's been playing as of late, and Clay, of course. You never know. Some of those role players, I don't want to totally count out Golden State right now, but it looks like Golden State is on their last legs as far as this season. 23 games left. Maybe they can get into the play-in tournament and make some noise. Steph healthy, Clay healthy, Andrew Wiggins. You get Iguodala back to give you something. Big shot-making ability, big-time decision-making, big-time experience, big-time leader when it counts. Flash plays here and there. Kevon Looney, been there, done that. Draymond, of course. But they have to turn up on the defense side of the ball. But with KD and the Suns, you get Chris Paul. Now you're playing with a true point guard if you're Kevin Durant. Made his way out of Brooklyn. I don't need to go back to that disaster in Brooklyn with him and Kyrie and whatever. They made their way out of there. But you add KD to Chris Paul, who's went healthy, still playing at a high level, not as consistent as he usually has been over the past few years because he's been nicked up here and there. But he still can dish out, what did he have, 19 assists in one of his last few games? He's still a floor general. Again, like I've always said, his game has never been predicated on athleticism. So it's not like, okay, he's losing it athletically. He can't dunk anymore. He's never been that guy. He's a floor general, a leader. But you get to keep Chris Paul to go with Kevin Durant on one wing, Devin Booker on the other wing, and then you keep DeAndre Ayton. Hold on. Yo, what's up? I ought to put you live on air right now. All right, for sure. Yeah, come on, man. I'm doing my show, bro. I know you did. See, I answer my phone. Hey, man, I answer the phone on my show and everything. I don't care. Yeah. A little bit of everything. You want to say something on here? All right, I'll holler at you. All right, for sure. Okay. All right, peace. Got something coming up this weekend. But and you keep DeAndre Ayton, who I think gets way too much ridicule. I think DeAndre Ayton is a nice player. Former number 1 pick. But you keep that presence in the middle. Now, I don't know how much depth they're going to have right now. They lose Mikal Bridges and Cameron Thomas. But to get KD, you have to give up somebody. Come on, man. I don't know after those 4 where the depth is going to come from or where the defense is going to come from, for that matter. Even though KD can be a good defensive player, defensive helper, but you keep DeAndre Ayton, he's only going to be that much better now. Now that'll free him up even more. He can roll to the basket, get lobs and dunks and putbacks. If he's willing to do that and stay engaged and protect the rim and rebound like he's capable of doing, to go with two wing players like Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So what you're doing, you get into the playoffs, again, the depth, we'll see how the depth plays out. But you have a team that can, now, and another drawback with the Phoenix Suns, they're a jump shooting team. KD at this point in his career, he doesn't really make his way to the basket a whole lot. But one thing they will give you in the playoffs, even though they'll be a jump shooting team, it's not strictly threes. It'll be a great mid-range game from Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and Kevin Durant. So pick your poison. They can get it from anywhere on the floor. And KD can still get to the rack when he chooses to. Doesn't like to go to the rack that often. More mid-range, pull-up, but deadly. Devin Booker, deadly. Chris Paul, now you have a true point guard those guys are playing with, so they don't have to worry about really handling the load in that regard, handling the basketball and making those decisions. Now they can get the ball in spots. You know Chris Paul is going to distribute the basketball. He's going to get that ball to them in spots where they're most comfortable. He's going to share the wealth. Everybody's going to stay happy. Then he's going to be able to operate against the team's, third worst defender now? Maybe fourth? Perimeter defender? Third worst defender, because you're going to have to worry about KD and Devin Booker. So Chris Paul, the first ballot Hall of Famer, is still going to be able to get his. And now he's going to be going not against the second best defender, but the third best defender, wing defender. So you know he's going to eat when it's time to eat. But that's almost illegal for Phoenix to pull off what they pulled off. But again, we'll see what happens with the depth. We'll see what happens with the depth moving forward. And the defense, and the defensive side of the ball. But, man, in the West. Okay, I talked about the Clippers. They're right there with the Clippers right now. In the Western Conference, they're right there with the Clippers. Hold on right quick. Let me see something. NBA standings. Western Conference. Oh, of course, the Nuggets. The Nuggets, Jokic, who are probably the odds-on favorite right now to win it all, at least to come out of the Western Conference. I'll say that. 41-18 record, 7-3 over their last 10. Of course, Jokic, he hasn't been able to get them to the promised land over his 2 MVP seasons. But, of course, he didn't have Jamal Murray last year as well. Jamal Murray is back. He's healthy. You have Michael Porter Jr. You have tremendous depth on that team. If it's any season where the Nuggets can make some noise in the playoffs, it's this season. But, again, you have Memphis to still be concerned about. Even though they don't have great three-point shooting, Desmond Bane and Ja Morant, when they're cooking, they cook. And you know they can turn up on the defensive side of the ball when they have to, but when they're cold, they're cold. But when they're cooking, they're cooking. But do they have enough shooting, enough three-point shooting, and enough efficient shooting to really get the job done in the playoffs when it matters? We shall see. But they've been on a slide lately, but they're 35-22, 4-6 in their last 10. Sacramento, as great of a season as they've had in regards to where people thought they would be, I don't think they're going to be a serious threat. They can make some noise. They can push some teams in the playoffs and really scare some teams with just De'Aaron Fox being the great player that he is and being the one-man wrecking crew, and, of course, a bonus as well. But you got to love what Sacramento is doing. They can give some teams some problems, really gear up a team for something more in the rounds to come, because they're going to be so competitive and they're going to give that team all they can handle. So that'll really get the opposing teams' antennas up. And who knows? Hey, the playoffs is a whole different ball game, so who knows what can happen. But the Clippers, I talked about the addition. I talked about the addition of And speaking of the Nuggets, Jokic may just win his third MVP. I mean, third straight MVP. He's the odds-on favorite right now. Of course, you have Joel Embiid. Of course, you have Tatum. You have Doncic. But right now, it would probably be Jokic right now. The Clippers, the Suns, who are fifth right now, 32-28, 7-3 in their last 10 games. Talked about them with the addition of KD to go along with Booker, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Ayton. But we'll see about the depth, and we'll see about the defense when it matters. But you're talking about 4 stars right there. The Mavericks, KD and Kyrie. I mean, not KD. Kyrie and Luka. They're 0-2 when they both played together. But Kyrie is gone over there. Seems like he's found himself a home, at least for the remainder of the season. Seems like the players love playing with him right now. Now, we'll see how that translates on the floor with him and Luka both needing the basketball. Of course, Luka averaging 33 points a game. That's probably going to go down because Kyrie is going to get his. You know, he's a tremendous scorer. Now, we'll see what happens on the defensive side of the ball with that team. And they lost 2 tremendous perimeter players in Dinwiddie and Finney-Smith. So where's the depth going to come from? The Mavericks, as great as Kyrie is going to be scoring the basketball this season, and Luka, you know that's my favorite player, they're not going to win the championship. Luka led those guys to the Western Conference Finals last year. Even with Kyrie, I don't think they're as good this season as last season. Now, they may have more scoring punch, obviously, with Kyrie, but they're not as good on the defensive side of the ball. And again, with Luka, when Luka goes out of the game, Kyrie is going to eat. Kyrie is going to flirt with 25 to 30 points a game. He's going to have a 40-point night, probably one of these games or more. He's going to be great scoring the basketball. But the Mavericks are not going to win the championship with Luka and Kyrie and nothing else. They're not. Lost Jalen Brunson, who's balling with the Knicks right now. Again, lost those perimeter players. But it'll be good for TV for the remainder of the season. See Kyrie, who found his way out of Brooklyn. I don't need to get on that right now. But, hey, who knows where he ends up next season. But so far, he's giving them some scoring punch opposite of Luka. And I'm sure that trend is going to continue without a doubt. But as far as them making a serious push in the playoffs, no. I don't see it. I don't see it. And you know how I feel about Kyrie making other players better around him. But I don't need to go there tonight because he's been playing tremendous basketball since he's been in Dallas. And I'll just let the season play out and see what happens. But I don't need to get into him leaving Brooklyn or KD or any of that. They're gone. It is what it is. Pelicans, who knows? Zion re-aggravated that hamstring again. Who knows if he comes back the remainder of the season? He just derailed their chances. They could have made some noise with Brandon Ingram back and C.J. McCollum. The Warriors, I don't know. That's my team. I love the Warriors. You know I love the Warriors. But 29-29, let's see if they make a run. But I'm not going to count them out yet. So don't sit here and say you said the Warriors were not going to make it. I said it doesn't look like that right now. They're last year's champions. And if they have their full complement of players and their rotation set with Clay, Steph, Wiggins, and Draymond, I don't put anything past them. And Looney, Iguodala, even at his advanced age. But in the East, the Bucks get Jay Crowder. The Bucks are the team who I think, the Celtics are a team too to be reckoned with. The Celtics are for real, for real, for real. Right now, the Celtics and the Bucks right there are neck and neck. Excuse me. The Bucks, as I clear my throat, the Bucks are a half a game behind the Celtics right now in the Eastern Conference. Giannis dealing with the wrist injury. Who knows how long he'll be out. But the Celtics, the Celtics with Tatum and just how deep they are as a basketball team, how well coached they are. Now the coach is their head coach for the foreseeable future. He's not the interim coach anymore. Great defensive team, offensive scoring punch, depth. But the same with Milwaukee. And I have to go with Milwaukee because how dominant Giannis is when he's healthy. And their size when you get Bobby Portis back and you add Jay Crowder. If he's healthy and gets in shape, you add that leadership and that defensive prowess and three-point shooting ability to what the Bucks already have to go along with what Drew Holiday is doing on the perimeter, on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Say what you will about Grayson Allen. Budenholzer loves him. He's going to get his minutes. He's going to be pesky. He's going to hound you on the defensive side of the ball. He can also create on the offensive side of the ball, give you scoring punch from time to time when needed. But he's in there just to create, make plays, and be nasty on the defensive side of the ball. Get under the opposing team's skin. So the Bucks, whew. Again, the Warriors traded James Wiseman. The Lakers acquired D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley. I still don't think that they're going to be better. Championship ready, I don't know. It's hard for me to count out LeBron if AD stays healthy, and for that matter, if LeBron stays healthy. But D'Angelo Russell is going to give them a point guard who can put the ball in the hole, who can distribute, set everybody up. Now LeBron can play off the ball more than he has. It's definitely a big-time pickup. Malik Beasley can give you something in that regard. But they did lose. Your boy. And, one other pickup with the Clippers that goes understated and unnoticed before I get out of here. Bones Highland from the Nuggets. 22 years old. A bit inconsistent. But, hey, that's a nice pickup for the Clippers on the wing to add some depth, who can knock down the three, athletic, could give you some defense when he's engaged. Hey, the second half, but the Nuggets acquired Thomas Bryant as well to back up from the Lakers. That was a loss for the Lakers, who played well in the absence of Anthony Davis. But the Nuggets acquired Thomas Bryant from the Lakers for second-round picks, of course. But just think about that. Think about Jokic now having a legitimate backup center. Hey, the second half of the season is going to be fire. Can't wait to the playoffs. Can't wait to see what transpires as far as this NFL free agency, as far as these franchise tags are concerned. The Rockets, Silas still has a job. They're still in the running for Wembanyama. Silas still has a job. Okay, I'll just leave it at that.